Chance to review, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Item number 1 in new business is approval of right-of-way use permit for the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff to install speed table and pedestrian crossing signals at the Tuscaloosa County Jail temporary housing facility. Mike, welcome.
Hey, good afternoon. This is gonna be a temporary pedestrian crossing. The temporary jail is going across the street on the north side here from the jail. They'll be bringing stuff over across the street. So the purpose of this is to provide a safe means for them to bring food across. They'll be using cars. Again, this is gonna be temporary in nature. When the temporary jail goes away, they'll remove this facility from the right of way.
So,
What do you do, bolt those strips in, and just take the bolts out?
I think they're gonna build this out of concrete. It'll be a little bit of a raised platform, so that you don't go down a curb, across the street, back up a curb. It's just gonna be for convenience of access. They'll construct it, then they'll remove it and put the road back to good condition.
Mike, how long is this project supposed to be?
I've heard 2 years, but I don't know that, who knows.
Has it started yet or no?
They've done some site clearing, we've approved the LDP, the modular units, I think, are coming out of Missouri or somewhere, and I don't know what they're delivering.
Questions from committee?
yes, sir. How will this impact what the people in my district see? Because I've had a lot of conversation about this. These, even though this is a county project, they're going to be using city right of way. So how is that going to impact the traffic?
It's gonna look a lot like what you see as a speed table to manage speeding in areas. There'll be a hump in the road, maybe about as wide as that desk, 6 inches tall, with ramps on either side. And there'll be warning signs on either side of it.
And we're just issuing them a use permit, they're paying for it.
Yes, sir, that's correct. No cost to the city.
Matthew, okay? Motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. Item number 1 is approved. Item number 2, approval of construction contract to SD Bund for the ESD parking lot improvement Phase 1. The total is $328,642. Clint, welcome.
Welcome. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. So this is phase 1 of this project. It's to replace the southern portion of the parking lot, which is in bad condition. And we opened bids last Tuesday. There were 3 bids that were submitted, and the lower bid was ST Bund. And so we're recommending to award them this contract. The funding will be coming from RFFI, and that's it on mine. Is there any questions on?
Questions?
So, Clint, this is just a change order, correct?
No, so this is a new contract. New contract.
Oh, wow. Back in your game. I flipped over to page 8, that's not a continuation of what's where's the money coming from? GFRFFI?
Yes, sir.
Oh, maybe that's what-
So moved.
Moved and seconded,
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 2 is approved. Item number 3, approval to change order number 1 to the construction contract to Southern Civil Contracting for the Clements Road Booster Pumping Station and Mercedes tank upgrades, can't speak, project. Total is $32,511.51 with an additional 267 calendar days. Brian, welcome.
Thank you. This is the balancing change order. The project's complete. We're trying to close out the contract. the construction contract. The additional money, or the additional time is due to the long lead time on generators. Generators are pretty hard to nail down a schedule these days. We've got several properties where we have the same situation right now. So that's the reason for the long contract extension. The additional money can be attributed to, after the project was bid, we added some SCADA components, which is the system we use to monitor and operate remotely the pumping station from the plant. We're doing a lot more of that now than we used to, and so that's the reason for the additional cost. The additional cost is within the project budget. Funding is primarily drinking water state revolving fund, SRF, and there's some ARP funds in there as well.
So I think I asked this question last week, and Ms. Standridge just made. So when we undertook that $981,000, that does not include a 10% contingency, right?
You talking about the project budget or the project contract?
I'm talking about the original contract was 981, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so when we undertake that, normally we have a 10% contingency earmark, right? This was the easy part, man.
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Totally
I mean, it was a long time ago when the project budget
Sorry,
was
come on
set.
the microphone.
All I'm
It
trying to get at is this, did we have it, and is that in this ARP and drinking water SRF fund?
So generally, project budgets, if they have a 10% contingency built into them, it just depends. So when bid contracts come in, if we have let's say that we do have a 10% contingency and our estimates worked into our budgeting amount, but the bid comes in and it eats up a little bit of that contingency. So now we have less than a 10% contingency in our budget, but we don't add anything into it. You know, it just depends on when bids come in and what they come in at. So each project will be different, I guess is what I'm saying.
So in this case, with the funding, I assume the overage, the 32 and change, is coming out of, it says project funding 2018 DWSRF and ARP. Is that where the 32 is coming from?
I don't know what he's talking about. So this is GWSRF, and then so the ARP item is where like we would probably pull contingency from. So your question is, because we're revising the contract amount from 981 to 1.013 million, where that money is coming from, like which section of budget? I'm gonna have to look that up individually.
Okay, it's 32 grand on $1 million contract. I'm okay with it, and I'm okay to make a motion. But I want to learn that after the meeting, when, take a cleaner contract where there's, take an Elevate project. If it's a $4 million contract, we typically earmark 4.4 million, right, to include a contingency.
Sometimes
I
yes,
think that's the
sometimes
goal.
no. I mean, like, yeah, yes,
If we
Brian's
bid-
right.
If we bid a project and we have the money and it's all the way up to the 4.4, we're gonna award it, not add any more money.
Having the contingency in there is always a goal, regardless
No,
of whether
it's
or not
not
that can fit into
It's
our,
not a standard?
whether or not that can fit into a budget that we can create is really going to be the issue. So if we have a $75 million availability, but we want to, put the certain amounts of items into that $75 million budget, if we can't hold a 10% on every single project, then we don't hold the 10% on every single project.
No, yeah. Now, last week, we kind of talked about setting up, like, when our office does a cost estimate for a new project, we're trying to put on a 20% contingency on that. So when the project budget's set up, it has that 20% contingency built into it. And then also we try to carry a 10% construction allowance as well into the construction contract.
And what is SCADA?
SCADA is it's just the system, it's an acronym, I'm not sure what the acronym stands for, but it's the system for the remote operation and monitoring of the pump station from the plant. So like our water operators can say, hey, pumps turn on faster, we're losing, it's dropping, the tank level's dropping. So that's what that is. It's just a monitoring
Monitors it
operation.
electronically, right, and alerts.
I don't.
Yeah.
have any
It's
additional-
an industrial control system
Yeah.
protocol, so
Yeah.
used in factories or industrial applications. It's
Okay.
more resilient.
Carly, was this project a part of a bond offering?
No, sir, it's part of the SRF.
Just part of SRF?
So, I mean, you can say, yes, it is part of debt, because our SRF is part of our debt structure.
It is, was there other, I guess to get back to Councilman Busby's question, though, when we did this project, were there other projects in that bucket? I can't remember.
There
The
was,
DW SRF, yes, sir, in 2018, we had multiple projects within our DW SRF.
So was there an overall contingency put in those when they were
And so-
brought to us and set up?
And so generally, the way the SRF works is that you request a certain amount, we basically requested of ADEM to give us a I'm making up numbers,
Yeah.
a $50 million, bucket of availability to draw down from. We then over applied for our projects. So we gave them projects probably worth $60 million. So that when there were possible savings within, and we did them in priority order. So we'd say like maybe we were hoping that we could get maybe the first 10 priorities to be able to be funded. Well, throughout those first 10, if there were savings within the project, we could then bump down and say, well, now the savings in the first 10, we can do project number 11. Or at least a piece of project number 11 with the savings.
Add more to the list.
Correct.
Because you didn't spend what you thought you would,
We didn't spend what we thought we would.
but you still were allocated the money.
We still were given the money by ADEM,
That's right.
correct. So we over apply in our SRF offerings for that reason specifically. So is there a contingency worked into each project? Yes, there is. Sometimes when bids come in, that contingency gets eaten up and we don't add anything back to the budget. In the instance of SRF, we probably overestimate what we will spend, and but we over apply to the projects, if that makes sense.
So Carla, with that being said, is there never a certain percentage of contingency?
There is no set standard for contingency, no.
I don't have any other questions.
Do you-
Motion?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Item number 3 is approved. Item number 4, authorization to execute an agreement with AT&T for conversion from aerial to underground utilities regarding Martin Luther King Jr. Phase 2 project between Greensboro and 21st on Jack Warner, $200,000, $751.25, Brian.
yes, sir, this is exactly as it's described there. We need to execute this agreement so AT&T will move their communication utility off the poles and underground and conduit that's already been installed by GFC.
Is this, I mean, I guess we were talking about this in pre-council, so when we were talking about this project, I know I drive on Jack Warner every day, and I can't wait till Greensboro's open, right? But going up 21st every day, when is this project gonna be finished?
That's what I wanted.
The project is set to be finished in August. It's a 15-month project. I mean, right now, our contractor is waiting on the private utility companies to get their utilities in the conduit, and that's why
Is that why there's
the
been no work?
activity has been sparse.
And none, basically none, for a pretty good while, there hadn't really been anything going on out there.
Yeah.
I guess I ought to keep.
I
a
mean, it's
record of it.
projected that they'll be done, you know, these guys, these private utility companies, we have trouble with them from time to time. The projections are that we'd have those utilities in our conduit into May.
So are we back?
So then our contract, sorry to interrupt, but.
Oh, yeah, but when this is done right here, is this gonna open back up work? Should,
Yeah,
once this
Yes,
is kinda
yes, sir.
done?
yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about this,
This AT&T, is this the
yeah.
last piece?
Right.
So
This
they
is the
get back
last
to work?
agreement piece, yeah. Now, other utilities are still moving their stuff, but having this agreement in place will let they have to go like in a certain order. Alabama Power's gotta go, Comcast has gotta go, and then AT&T. So this, allows this allows AT&T to move forward. We already have an agreement in place for Comcast and Alabama Power.
So this is supposed to be finished into the summer.
Yes, and it's tracking. I mean, now, it's gonna depend on how these guys do. But,
Okay.
but we haven't had a contract extension either. It's a 15-month contract. It started, in May of '22, and we haven't had a time extension at this point.
Questions, committee members?
Motion.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item is approved, thank you, Brian. Next item is authorization to execute a commercial aeronautical agreement with Rev Aviation. Welcome, Jeff.
Good afternoon. Under fixed-based operator, they can elect to provide a series of aeronautical services, flight maintenance, flight training, fuel, hangar keeper, and in this instance, Hawthorne has provided a written notice they'd like to provide flight training and aircraft rental services as a sublease. That's with Rev Aviation. They submitted a commercial application, provided a copy of their sublease for our review, and per the lease agreement, they're required to get City Council for their approval to operate this commercial operation.
Does, one of the questions that I had on this too, and I think you and I talked a little bit before committee meeting, this does not give them an exclusive right to do any type of training or anything else they can do, like someone else could come in if they were qualified,
That's correct.
right, and could apply the same way this has happened with this, right?
That's correct. We're legally not able to provide exclusive rights for any
Okay.
commercial operations, as long as they meet the minimum standards. In this case, they are ramping up over a 12-month from bringing 1 to 2 aircraft to meet that minimum standards, which is perfectly permissible within our standards or our listed rules and regulations.
Okay, questions?
Has anybody been providing it previously?
Yes, General Aviation Center was our previous flight training school. They sold the hangar to the city for the Tuscaloosa Police Department. So we've been very interested in bringing that service back to the airport.
So when they left, there was no provision of it?
That's correct. So we've actually got multiple parties. Another one's here today with us that's also interested that we're working with and trying to provide more flight training to the pent up demand in Tuscaloosa.
So does anyone have a plan as it relates to what we are trying to propose and get done at the airport?
They provide a business plan of what they are wanting to do. So right now, this entity is wanting to provide 1 aircraft with 2 flight instructors, ramping up to 2 aircraft and providing initial and recurring flight instruction. And that's all they've committed to in their business plan.
And have other persons or companies that have come through here, have they presented us with anything that's concrete that we and then in your department that see as a benefit to our city?
We
and
have.
the airport?
Absolutely. We've received multiple interests, and we have received a business plan and application for a second flight training operator.
Would that be under an existing FBO, or can that just be independent?
In this case, it's actually the group here with us today, Sanders Aviation. They are looking for a facility outside of fixed-based operator. So we are trying to find a facility, or at least a way to start up and then hopefully grow into a permanent facility.
So nothing we're doing with this today precludes that from happening.
That's correct.
Other questions from committee members? Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moving second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 5 is approved. Item number 6 is approval of professional services contract with Vision Security Technologies. Total is $33,091.92. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is a recurring maintenance for the software that runs our security cameras for the city. We pay this every year, and it's budgeted out of our maintenance.
Does this contract, is it similar to what we've got in place now, money-wise?
Yes, very similar. We've added a few cameras, so it's a few thousand more than it was last year, but it's small percentage of what the initial cost was for each one.
Questions, committee members?
So moved.
Second.
Moving second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number six is approved. Item number 7, authorization for the Chief Information Officer to execute budgeted agreements with Comcast.
This is,
Okay.
this is very similar to the one that we did for C-Spire not long ago. This allows me to sign for things like adding a cable box, in a city facility that, that's really all just so that we don't have to come to you every time that we add a trivial cost.
How trivial would be trivial?
Less than $100 a month. Just, it's basically the same price as your cable box at home.
Okay.
So moved.
Pretty trivial. Moving second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item is approved. Item number 8 is approval of contract with Motorola Solutions for on-site training of 911 call operators. Jason?
Yes, this is utilizing existing funds that were already part of our maintenance agreement with Motorola to have someone come and do some additional training for 911 call operators on some new portions of the dispatch software. It doesn't cost any additional money. We've already paid it. It's just utilizing those funds.
That's good.
Motion.
Second.
Moving second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 9, approval of change order number 2 with Pioneer Technologies Group at no cost. We like to hear that. Welcome, Jessica. We like
Hello.
that.
So this is a no-cost change order, just adding another module to the court software that'll allow us to process cases in batch instead of one by one. But there will be no cost on top of our original contract.
Good, no cost.
Questions from committee members?
How have we been doing this already?
So we just switched from our old software in December. So in the previous software, we did have FTA batch processing. In the new software, it was not implemented previously. So we've been doing this one by one on cases right now, but it would be very helpful and efficient to be able to process those in batch.
Any other questions?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Is there any more business to be brought before this committee? Our next Public Projects Committee meeting will be next Tuesday, April 25th. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moving second, and all in favor say aye.